Well, hello, good evening, welcome, how you doing? Happy New Merry Xmas and all of the other things that we haven't been able to say to you. It's Dave here, sans Keith. Unfortunately, I am Keithless tonight. Keith, unfortunately, has a dose of the threepennies. He told me not to tell anybody, so I won't. But he's not a very well man at the moment, so he's probably bad in bed with a shawl on, both feet in one sock. But have we got a show for you tonight? Have we got a show for him tonight? Have we got a show for him tonight?
I think so. I think we did prepare something.
We did. It's a feature-packed show, I think. Let me see if I can show you what's coming up. Glover reports from New Zealand.
I set up at Vape It Forward on Twitter and asked people overseas to vape it forward.
Matt Gerish looks at the DNA 200 and recounts his experiences.
Anyway, problems have happened with the DNA 200 board. I've had 4 boards fail on me.
A new member of the team joins and starts reviewing kit. Welcome Mark Crew.
I think it's a cracking little tank, to be honest with you. The flavour on it is really good, I must admit. For a sub-ohm tank, it really is good.
Ridian Man goes in depth around the politics about vaping.
I'm going to start off by looking at the legislation in regards to bricks and mortar stores.
I tell it like it is to the New Zealand tobacco control people. To constantly remind people these things are safe enough. Dimitris Agrafiotis, the vaping Greek, takes a look at the Cleto.
Like I said, 45 watts here, 0.25 is what it's reading on my DNA 200. Have all the air slots open.
All that and more this week on vaportrails.tv. And that's what's coming up. The train now standing on platform 5. That's what's coming up for you tonight. It's going to be a packed show. It's an hour and a half long. We'll be finishing at 10 o'clock. If you're watching live, if you're watching on video demand, then we'll be finishing at whatever time it is. That's an hour and a half-ish from now. Yes, there or thereabouts. Look, let's not hang about. Let's hit the news. And there's going to be an extra item on top of that as well. But we want to keep on track of the news. So here is the news of the week. And here is this week's news. First, let's cover the Juan Rodriguez piece, where a retraction has in fact been posted. And the clarification correction at the bottom of the world's worst piece on e-cigs, frankly, says contrary to what was stated or implied in much of the news coverage resulting from this news release. The lab experiments did not find that e-cigarette vapor was as harmful to cells as cigarette smoke. In fact, one phase of the experiments, not addressed in the news release, found that cigarette smoke did in fact kill cells at a much faster rate. However, because similar cell damage mechanisms were observed as the result of both e-vapor and regular cigarette smoke, Dr. Juan Rodriguez asserts, based on the evidence from the study, that e-cigarettes are not necessarily a healthier alternative to smoking regular cigarettes. As stated in the journal paper and the news releases, further research is needed to better understand the actual long-term health effects of e-cigarettes in humans. What that actually means is nothing. She's standing pretty much by what she said. So even though their own study has said that e-cigs are orders of magnitude safer than smoking lit tobacco, she's still standing by it. Ideology or fact? You decide. Next up, Farsalinos, Yanovitis, Sari, Udris and Poulas have come up with some interesting findings in a new study. This is a protocol proposal for the evaluation and consistency of nicotine delivery from a liquid to aerosol of electronic cigarettes, atomizers, regulatory, and so on and so forth. You can see it all there. The interesting part is the findings and the conclusions. The conclusion basically states that electronic cigarettes that use tank-type atomizers appear to deliver nicotine in more consistent quantities within the acceptable limits for medicinal nebulizers and similar to the nicotine inhaler than electronic cigarettes that use cartomizers. The protocol for testing nicotine delivery consistency described in this paper could be effectively used for regulatory purposes, and so on and so forth. Basically, it's saying what we've known all along, that the kind of juice containing properties of, say, an Evoke, the new medicinal e-cig, doesn't work as well as a tank. And that is a tank, of course. So yes, tanks are where it's at for best delivery of nicotine. There's also been, to go alongside this, another study. This again has been done by Farsalinos et al. And tells us some interesting stuff. It's about the effect of continuous smoking reduction and abstinence on blood pressure and heart rate in smokers switching to electronic cigarettes. So again, Dr. Farsalinos has been involved, as you will see. Let's go straight to the abstract and just look at the conclusion. It's smokers who reduce or quit smoking by switching to e-cigarettes may lower their systolic blood pressure in the long term, and this reduction is apparent in smokers with elevated blood pressure. The current study adds to the evidence that quitting smoking with the use of e-cigarettes does not lead to higher blood pressure values, and this independently observed whether e-cigarettes are regularly used or not. Again, all positive stuff that's coming out. So what we can say from this, if I was to put the two studies together, is that if you get something like this, a tank system that works extremely well at delivering nicotine to you and therefore is going to work better in terms of either recreational use or quitting, it doesn't matter which way you slice it, your blood pressure is going to reduce. So all of these horror stories about, oh, we don't know what's going to happen in the long term, apparently we do. That's all I've got time for the news this week. Back to the studio. Now, since that was recorded for last night, there's been another little bit of news, apparently Stanton Glantz, that well-known Porkine aircraft engineer turned cardiologist, professor of whatever, has co-authored a study that's telling the world at large that if you use e-cigs, you have a 28% lower chance of quitting than if you were not to use an e-cigarette. I have a word for that. Bollocks. The fact of the matter is, I'm not alone in thinking that. There are a host of eminent scientists that have basically said that what is published is a load of bull, should be dismissed, is a load of crap, and probably even as we speak, Greg Connolly in the States is on telly with Professor Glantz telling him exactly that. Links to all of the various different bits will of course be in the programme descriptions on YouTube, and we'll be pasting them in left, right and centre. But before I move on, there is one piece of information I would like to give you. Rid, if you've got that link ready. Germany needs your help, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I would imagine that everybody that's watching this show has already done this. But if you haven't, or if you know anybody that hasn't, can you please get them to go to the link that Ridian has only just put into chat, which is at vapors.org.uk, petition to the German Parliament / there you go. Go there, sign up. Now, this is not a 2-minute thing. It's not going to happen immediately. It does take a little while. You've got to register and stuff like that, but trust me, it's worth it. They need to get to 50,000 by the 20th. Let's see if we can get them there by the 18th. It's the 15th now. So by the end of the week, by the start of next week, by Monday, let's see if we can't get everything sorted out, please, and get that up to the 50,000. That gives them half a chance. One thing I will ask you though, will you please make sure that what you put on the form's totally truthful, because the Germans will be checking. We don't want anything to go wrong, do we? That was the news, wasn't it, Matt?
It was. and very nicely done, I think, as well.
Was that all right, was it?
I think that was for our first proper news segment. Very professional, I thought.
Well, this is the thing. This is what we're going to be trying to do, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be, you're going to see a total change. Think the one show patched up with Top Gear and other television shows are available. It's going to be fast paced, it's going to be full of info, and it's going to be TPD compliant, but our version thereof, our version of TPD compliant. We're going to get reports from around the world, and the first of those reports from around the world comes from Mario Glover. Now, if you don't know, Dr. Mario Glover is a New Zealand expert, if you like, on smoking cessation, on health. She's what I call a proper public health person. So she invited my wife and myself to go over there and talk to a few people, and there's a few bits and bobs have come out of it. So, well, here's the New Zealand report from Mario and Rebecca.
From the land of the long white cloud, I'm Associate Professor Mario Glover from Massey University, and with me today is Rebecca Ruffieux-Collins, who is also on Twitter. We're both on Twitter. I'm at Mario Glover, and you're at
Rebecca_Ruffieux.
Yes. So beautiful in New Zealand today. It's summer here, and we just want to update you on what we've been doing since Dave came down to visit New Zealand. So one of the things that I did with my partner after Dave had been here and he didn't find very many vapors in the wild, I set up at Vape It Forward on Twitter and asked people overseas to vape it forward. You know, if you finished with your e-cigarette, send it to us. And then I needed to get names and addresses of people here who really, really wanted to try vaping and could receive any of the donations that came. So Rebecca's worked in smoking cessation for a long time, supporting a lot of people, and Rebecca had names and addresses, lots of names and addresses.
Lots of names and addresses. I had people that I had helped to stop smoking, and we had tried everything, and they had tried and they had not been successful in stopping smoking. So I thought, okay, this is an opportunity, and since, you know, the last time we saw Dave, I thought I'm going to give Mario some names and let's see how we go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So William, tell me about William.
So William was my first person that I gave Mario for Pay It Forward, or Vape It Forward, sorry, and he has been amazing. He has stopped smoking. In that first week of starting to vape, he had one cigarette, and I asked him, why did you have that one cigarette? And he said, I sort of just needed to see what it was like. And he hasn't had one since. He's now going into his fourth week of not a single puff of tobacco. He has been vaping and he looks amazing. I just couldn't believe what a transformation he looked. His skin looked great. He looked really happy. And, you know, I said I couldn't even smell you from the doorway where, you know, I could before. So I was really happy for him, and, you know, he was really chuffed. He's really proud of himself.
So, and then we got some more generous people from overseas offer to send an e-cigarette and or juice. And so William, you've then since been able to give me names of a couple more people from William's family.
Yes, from William's family, and they've seen such a big difference with William, and they think, oh wow, I want to try it. And I'm thinking, you know, let's do whatever it takes not to have a single puff of tobacco, and if vaping is what they want to do, let's do it. So yeah, I was really excited that, you know, there were other family members that could become recipients of Vape It Forward, and yeah, they are waiting with anticipation of receiving their packages in the mail.
Yeah. So we have to do this because nicotine e-liquid is banned in New Zealand, and people can only import it from overseas for their own use. So I have to supply the name and address, and then our generous vapors from overseas, they put together a package and send it directly to these people, and it's just been fantastic for the support. So kia ora for that. So from seeing the success with William and a couple of other people now, did that give you the idea for this Vape to Save group that you've started up?
Absolutely. I was just so amazed at how easy it was for people just to stop smoking and start vaping, that I thought, okay, I want to do a group. I want to do a group just purposely for people that want to vape and transition to vaping. And so I started my very first Vape to Save group, and you know, I helped them get them set up with their own kits, their e-juice, and they've been supporting each other over 8 weeks. And
so, excuse me, did you have to help them go online and order it?
I had laptops and I had computers all up, and we all went through it. I went through each one of them individually to help them set up their profile, then order, and make sure that, you know, they were able to pay for it online. So some of my people, they don't have any credit cards, so we had to be a bit inventive around how can we get them something that they can actually buy stuff online. And they actually came up with the ideas. So here in New Zealand we have a thing called Prezi cards, and those Prezi cards where you put the amount of money on them and you can use them to purchase things online. So that was just something that I learnt as you work with the community, and they came up with these ideas. So
that's fantastic.
I'm spreading it out there with everyone else. Yeah.
And so how did your first group go?
My first group, it's their last day today, so we're all joining back together to meet everyone. But I started with 8 people, and I had one person drop out, which is, you know, what normally happens. But out of the 7, I had 6 people totally quit, and that was last week. So tonight is their final week with me, and I'll be really excited to see what their, you know, the results will be. But I've already had 2 people ring in saying that they can't see me tonight, and that's because it's holidays here in New Zealand. But they're both not a single puff of tobacco, and they love vaping, so I'm really excited.
Oh, this is really great. It would just be so wonderful if our smoking cessation services here would do what Bex is doing, but the Ministry of Health's position is still that you must use the recommended products and methods, and they do not recommend electronic cigarettes for quitting. So it's kind of a real barrier for us, and it's really frustrating, when you see
results,
people quitting so easily.
You know, I've had in my group, the one thing that I've really heard from my ladies is that it has just been so easy. It's so stressless transitioning from smoking tobacco to vaping, and that is what has been the most amazing thing for these ladies.
And you said they were saying they're not hungry.
Not hungry.
They're not having that craving for food that happens when you go through quitting.
They were quite amazed with that, because they all had tried to quit before, and it kept coming up every week how they weren't hungry, and I think it sort of shocked them a bit. But I just said, keep going, keep just, you know, sitting, relax, and vape away. Yeah.
So that's the situation in New Zealand. We'll keep lobbying the Ministry of Health and the politicians to try and get electronic, the e-liquid really. The nicotine e-liquid is all we need. We need that to be legal so you can buy it at the shops. And you can see just from what Bex has done with this group and the efforts and innovations that we're coming up with to try and get people access to an electronic cigarette and nicotine e-liquid. And the people that we primarily work with, Māori, Indigenous New Zealanders, low socioeconomic, and what's our prevalence rate? 42% of Māori smoke, and it's just a huge disparity with the white New Zealanders smoking rate down to about 13%. So there's just major disparity we're trying to address. And I just really want to thank you, Rebecca, for what you're doing. It's fabulous. And really brave of you, given the anti-feeling that's out there in New Zealand among our public health and our tobacco control people. We're out on a limb, but hopefully one by one, there will be more of us that step out and help smokers quit smoking. So that's all from us down here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. As Dave says, vape hard, vape on. And just thank you so much for your support through at Vape It Forward on Twitter. Kia ora. Kia ora.
That was Mario Glover and Rebecca Rihu Collins. Now, 6 out of 8 enrolled people, that's 75% of people that enrolled in Rebecca's group no longer smoking after 8 weeks, not 4. So, Professor Glantz, are you watching? I hope you are, because if you're watching, you've got to see from that your 28% less chance of quitting is, frankly, a load of bollocks. It's obvious. You give e-cigs to people use e-cigs, and you can see what's happening. Now, I'm so chuffed by this, because there'll be a little bit more from New Zealand later on. I want to share with you the first New Zealand National Vapor Day, and also one of the sessions where Jill and myself and Mario were sat and spoke to tobacco control and smoking cessation people over there. That's coming up later in the show. But go on, Matt, what do you make of that? I mean, 75% success rate, for goodness sake.
It just knocks the NRT into a cocktail. It really does. It just shows it for the failure that it is, really.
It does a bit, doesn't it? I mean, it's kind of crazy that you've got this ideological professor of porcine stupidity on one hand saying, no, there's no way, these things just make you not smoke. No, these things keep you smoking. You get these things and you're going to keep on smoking. And then you see what's happening in New Zealand with an indigenous population, the Maori over there. I think their smoking prevalence rate is something like 47%. It's ridiculously high in comparison to the rest of the world. And yet, here we have the situation where they're rolling e-cigs out in a country where you can't buy nicotine-containing e-liquid, and it's working so well. So I think that is the big middle finger towards Professor Glantz and his ilk. That's how can I make it? There it is. That's how big it is. That's for Mr. Glantz to swivel on. I refuse to call him Professor, but it's a packed show. As I said, we need to blast on. Whether somebody said please call him a chunt, I couldn't say that. I just couldn't say that. That would just be totally, completely and utterly wrong. Bollodules is what he speaks. That is the only language he understands. That said, there'll be footage coming up next week, I think, or the week after, where we've got an idea. I'd like to get Glantz into a room. Not just him, there's a few others. And a few of us. But you'll see that's going to come up later on. We really, really do have to bang on because there's so much to see tonight. Now, we are welcoming a new member to the team. A guy by the name of Mark Carew, who has been having a look at a Cumulus tank. And I don't know if you know what a Cumulus tank is. I didn't. There's so much stuff kicking about these days. Nobody really knows what there is. The whole 100% gamut of it all. If anybody's got everything of everything, well, they're doing better than I am, and God knows I try hard enough. So Mark's been looking at this Cumulus tank. He's brand new to Vapor Trails TV. He's going to be contributing reviews on a weekly basis for your delectation. I think he's got a voice to die for. I could listen to him all night. Solom, it would be his name out on the Twitter sphere. The Cumulus tank is what he's having a look at. Enjoy.
And today we're going to be looking at the Cumulus tank by Diamond Mist. We're going to have a quick talk and we'll go down below and have a look what this fella's all about. And this is the box the tank comes in. As you can see, you've got Diamond Mist there, Cumulus dual coil, and obviously on the sides here again A little bit of a breakdown there, and then on the back you've got the specifications. Okay, let's have a look inside the tank and see what we've got. Here you go, you have got your tank, you've got a spare glass, and you've got a spare coil. Comes with a 0.5 ohm coil and a 0.25 ohm coil. Okay, let's have a look underneath. Underneath we have a manual. Okay, let's have a look at this. There you go. It's a nice little manual, tells you how to maintain your tank, and also a bit of specifications and how to fill the tank as well. Really nice little in-depth manual there. One thing that did catch my eye on the manual, hopefully you can see that in red, it's do not use with a mechanical mod or hybrid top cap. Really good advice that, especially with a sub-ohm tank. I don't recommend you using them at all. Okay, let's have a look at the tank. Just move this just out of the way. There's your tank. It is 22mm in diameter, and from here to here, not including the drip tip or the 510, it is 56.4mm, and its capacity is 5ml of e-juice. Just can see on there you've got the Cumulus there, and on the back you've got the Diamond Mist logo. Really nice, do like this. Underneath there's your 510 pin, and on top is your drip tip. Quite a wide bore drip tip, but obviously narrows down slightly at the base. Has a nice little O-ring there. And I have tried other drip tips and they fit on there fine. Okay, let's have a look further. These is your air holes for your air, and they are 4mm that way, and all the way open they are 12mm, and they've got nice little clicky sections here, and they're repeated on both sides for your air intake. Okay, let's open this up and let's have a look inside. Okay, well, this is your base section, sorry, your tank section. And just here this is where you put your juice, just to the side, obviously not in the middle part. I'll show you that in a second. This all does actually come apart, so for easy cleaning, but I'll not do that now. Okay, this is your base section where your coil fits. I'll just take the coil out first. Here's your base section. And obviously, like I said, this is for your airflow. It repeats on both sides. And it's really easy to put your coil in. I'll just show you the coil. Here's the coil. You can see that. And the juice holes here, they have 4 on each side, and they are 3.8mm holes, so quite big. It is a vertical dual coil. And there's your base section, and plenty of airflow over there. And simply all you do with this is just screw it into the base. Obviously I'm going to juice this up now for you. So with every time that you've got a new coil, you want to be priming this. So what I do is just put a little bit of juice on each hole first. Just like that. Nothing major. That's it. And then just a little bit just around the outside. Okay, now just put that to one side as I am filling the tank. Well, here's the tank section, and really easy to fill, just down the sides. Hopefully you can see this. A bit harder always on camera than doing it in reel. There you go. And you don't go any further than this ridge here. I don't know if you can see that. But there you go. And then obviously you screw in your bottom. Then turn it up. Let that airflow in. And what I do is I give it a couple of primer puffs. That's obviously not firing your mode. And there we go. Obviously put my drip tip on. And that is the Cumulus tank. Okay, we'll go back up top, we'll give it a vape and see what we think. Okay. Okay, so that was the up and closey look at the Cumulus tank by Diamond Mist. So what do I think to this little fella? Well, to be honest with you, I think it's a cracking little tank, to be honest with you. The flavour on it is really good, I must admit. For a sub-ohm tank, it really is good. The downsides, well, there's not many downsides really, and it's, I would say it's more my personal opinion than anything else. One, obviously, it's a bottom fill. I mean, most tanks now are top fill, but it's not that inconvenient. The second thing that I don't like about it, it comes just with a metal drip tip. I can't be doing metal drip tips, so I always have to put my own Delrin drip tip. Again, it's not a problem. Most people are quite happy with a metal drip tip, but me, I just don't like them. The final thing that I would complain about, but it's then again, it's very subjective. It does go through juice, but if you want to produce clouds, you've got to use juice. It's as simple as that. I've been using this for roughly just over a week now, maybe a bit longer. Been using this on my Snowwolf at 40 watts, and I really do like it, I must admit. The airflow is nice and wide and open for me, and obviously you can cut that off if you so desire. But to be honest with you, I really do like this tank, and I would highly recommend it, to be honest with you. You're getting a lot for your money. Okay, so that was the Cumulus tank by Diamond Mist. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I do appreciate it. And as always, happy vaping.
Happy vaping indeed. Yes, that was the Cumulus tank. Now, I hope you'll agree with me. I think Mark's a good addition to the team, and I'm looking forward to seeing more reviews from him. It'll be good, but it's brought up a few questions, actually. We've been having a little chat while that was going on, because we could do that, because this is not a hangout show, even though we're using a hangout to bring Matt and Ridian in. I had a conversation earlier on today about mouth to lung versus direct lung hits. Matt, which are you using most?
These days, direct lung.
Okay, Red.
Sorry, direct to lung for me.
Right, I'm gonna ask chat now. Just a quick vote, quick show of hands, if you don't mind. Just MTL or DTL. So mouth to lung or direct to lung. MTL or DTL. Stick it in chat now and let's see where everybody's at. Because I'm not sure that direct to lung is the way that the majority of people that have never used a bong will go. And I would kind of like to get the information together to be able to tell everybody that's manufacturing these things, look, you need to be thinking about the folks that vape like they used to smoke. I've got a couple of tanks in hand that I'm going to be having a look at either for this show or the Monday show that can be used very nicely for mouth to lung, but I kind of want to see where we're at. I hope somebody's keeping account. MTL, DTL.
It's fairly even from my reckoning.
It's even, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, a bit more DTL coming through.
Good. It's what we like to hear. This helps. Baker B says sometimes DTL to show off, direct to lung to show off. I would never do that. You never ever catch me doing direct to lung to show off. I'll just take a quick talk while I'm reading this. Get out! No, not quite. Yeah, okay. So it looks as though there's a preponderance. I would say it was 66% mouth to lung, with 33% direct to lung. No, I'm sorry. I need to revise that. Working on the basis that most statistics are made up on the spot. It was 63.45% mouth to lung, and whatever 100 minus that is direct. This is glancing kind of statistics. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing glance.
What's the margin of error?
Pardon?
What's the margin of error?
About 6 inches. That's what I keep telling my wife.
Okay, fair enough.
That's okay. That's fair enough. Oh look, Lord. Even my wife, Jill Dawn, has just typed in mouth to lung, and this is the point exactly. Now, let me tell you, my darling wife, who is, truth be told, the light of my life. If she wasn't there, I would be that'd be useless, and you'll see why later. She is using a Triton 1, the first of the Triton tanks, but she's using the 1.8 ohm narrow bore mouth to lung, and she's getting away with that very nicely, thank you. The Triton is a tank that you can use in both ways, if you like. It swings both ways. We've got a review coming up in a little while of a tank that you cannot under any circumstances use for mouth to lung, and you'll see more of that. And this is something we want to talk a little bit more about, because we need to be catering, I think, not when I say we, I mean the industry needs to be catering for people who are, frankly, brand new at this. They need to be able to pick up something like that. And this is, what is this? This is a Joyetech Ego 1 VT, which does temperature control with nickel titanium, and it'll do a pure wattage as well. It's fixed output, other than for 3 settings, low, medium and high, and it mouth to lungs really nice. I shall try to show you. In terms of somebody that's just come from smoking, this is possibly the ideal thing, or one of the ideal things. So as time goes by on vaportrails.tv, we're going to be doing some reviews that are specifically aimed at the beginner to vaping, which I hope the various different e-cig friendly stop smoking services will pick up on. Excuse me. I hope they'll pick up on it, and they'll be able to kind of say to people when they come in, you want to have a look at, and give them a list of 10 things that we know is going to work. Now, if you know of something that you think is ideal for the beginner and might help them through into that intermediate stage, we want to hear from you. If you've got such a device and you are prepared to turn your iPhone round, other smartphones are available, and give us a 6 to 10 minute video of why you think your device is suitable for beginners, we want it from you, and we'll play it out on the shows. There's the request. There you go. Now, moving swiftly on, because we have to do, we have with us Ridian Man tonight. Ridian, whose coat is his jacket then?
That'd be mine, Dave.
That's all right then, isn't it, boyo?
Yes, Dave.
Now, Ridian's been out and doing an awful lot of work, a lot of research, and a lot of talking to an awful lot of people. And he's got a cracking piece of footage that I want everybody to have a listen to. Do you want to introduce it, Rid?
Go on then.
Go on then, you're full screen, mate.
This is my take on the age verification and proxy sale restrictions for vaping products. A lot of the arguments from certain members of public health, and even within the community itself perhaps, that vaping is targeted to children. Now, we know a little bit better than that, but there has been new legislation which has pretty much helped the cause that vaping is not advertised to children, as in under 18s, minors, whatever you want to say. Now, on October the 1st, 2015, such legislation came into force. This legislation means that a vaping vendor cannot knowingly sell to a person under the age of 18, or a person under the age of 18 knowingly buy a vaping product. Also, it stops the proxy sale of a vaping product, and that means an adult purchasing said vaping product for a person under the age of 18. So I'm going to start off by looking at the legislation in regards to bricks and mortar stores, what they need to do, and what you as a vaper should be on the lookout for in these shops around this time. So this is the title of the new legislation that was brought in on October the 1st, 2015, and it is the Nicotine Inhaling Products Age of Sale and Proxy Purchasing Regulations 2015. This is the part highlighting the proxy purchase. It doesn't really tell you much because it refers to different acts in the past. But proxy purchase, in this case, refers to the purchase of a tobacco product, or in this case, a vaping product, hardware or e-liquid, on behalf of persons under 18. And prohibition of sale of nicotine inhaling products to persons aged under 18. That's pretty straightforward, but as it says in Regulations Form 5, that refers to anything that is on prescription. What does that actually mean? Not much. But from discussions with trading standards, you can sometimes get away with a poster like this, which asks the question, are you over 18? And it gives the statement, you must be over 18 to purchase anything related to a vaping product with its accepted forms of ID. Alternatively, you could have a Challenge 21, Challenge 25 system in place, which has a poster like this, but this poster includes any other age-restricted product, and in this case that is a vaping product. But in some cases, depending on your trading standards, you may have to display this poster. And this poster is currently seen with tobacco products, such as your supermarkets, etc. But this means, and it gives the wrong message in my opinion, that vaping and tobacco are the same. So if you can contact your local trading standards to see whether they want poster up or not, it's up to them really, because they enforce it on your local level. On proxy purchasing, I spoke with Gillian Golden and Deb Trainer to see what they thought about proxy purchasing.
Yeah, never been an issue, but in the shop we just stick to the principle of if you look under 25, much as they do in normal shops. If you look under 25, we need to see for some form of ID, and it's banded around the shop. You know, it's quite obvious. There are signs on the door, there are signs by the till that you will be expected to provide ID. Where there's been an issue is where a parent has come in with a child. When I say a child's an under 18-year-old, they might even be a month shy of 18, wanting to buy for them, and we've had to say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to sell to you. And what they have sort of said, well, if I go out the shop and my mum comes back in, saying to the parent, well, no, I'm still not going to sell to you, knowing that you're going to give it to your teenager.
Do I personally think that harm reduction should only start at 18? I don't know. If I had a 17-year-old kid who was smoking, would I go into a vape shop and buy them an e-cigarette to get them off smoking? Yeah, I probably would. So I don't know how or kind of why you would ban proxy sales in terms of parent or guardian. I think that's going to be much harder to enforce.
Now, of course, with any enforcement of law, if you get it wrong, you'll probably end up having some enforcement action brought against you. And in the case of tobacco sales, if you don't put the tobacco sales as prohibited to under 18s, the yellow and black one I showed you earlier, you could probably get £1,000 fine if you don't comply. So that's £1,000 fine for not having one poster up. So it's always good to cover your backsides and put up any poster that you like. Also, it has been seen that you can have a £90 on the spot fine for being seen selling to those under 18. Now, you could either contest that fine and it'll be taken to court, and if you're unlucky, you can get a fine up to £2,500. That's pretty big for a vaping company's pocket, don't you agree? Right, that is pretty simple, isn't it? Display a few posters. Make sure that you log down any refused sales to children or to adults buying proxy for the under 18. But B&M stores have it easy. It gets more complicated when you're an online only vaping retailer. So let's have a look what the current situation in terms of age restriction for online vaping retailers. As an online vendor, there are a couple of options available to you. One includes having something simple like this. The user has to choose or accept whether they're 18 or over. So if you click I am under 18, for example, the site will not permit you any access. Alternatively, you can have a landing page like this. Yes, it's a little bit more complex and requires you to enter your date of birth, and then there are some terms and conditions underneath before you even access the site itself. So with these points of access, there has to be some backup in terms and conditions. This is a little bit of information from one of the retailers. As you can see, it goes quite in depth into what the company is doing in regards to keeping those under 18 off the site. As you go down, it does say that ID checks with regards to software may be the final hurdle if you don't get past their system. Now, I've spoken with Tristan, who is an online vendor, and this is what he had to say about his view on the online verification systems.
From a retailer's point of view, I don't really want to be selling my products to under 18s. It's a decision that I've made and quite a few other vendors have made, and the change in the law really just formalises what a lot of us have been doing anyway. The big issue with it is the setup cost and then the cost per search. Because obviously there's the fee to get yourself on the account, the integration methods aren't the cheapest, and then per search it's between 80p and £1.15.
Depends on the requirements of the age verification system. I mean, I was talking about Simbers just today actually, where we were talking about things like gambling sites and all of that sort of stuff. At the moment, we don't have a readily available product that's available to the e-cigarette industry to do that. We wouldn't have the funding to build one ourselves. It'll have to be a readily available product, and there is no online real-time data system for age verification. I mean, it's crazy, but it's as far as I am aware and our members are aware, true. There is a UK company that has told one of our members that they are looking into the Irish market, and they're already in talks with Irish bodies in finding out how they will do this in Ireland. But when will that happen? We don't know. But also, it has to be said, from the Tobacco and Alcohol Control Unit, we've been given no indication that what our members will need. So we're very much still in limbo on that.
Now let's put some context in terms of other legislation that will be coming our way. For example, the TPD. Now the TPD means that vendors, retailers, manufacturers and importers have a lot of responsibility in terms of notifying information. Now, if we compare that to the age restriction, age verification legislation, there is much of a gap in the ease of use, isn't it? So I asked Tom and Tristan what they thought about it.
Yes, if I was the only one, yes, definitely.
If this was the only piece of legislation we had to conform to, I would be absolutely ecstatic.
Yes, There you are, Rid. You are live on screen. That's your piece. Anything you want to add?
Not much to it. After having another chat with Swansea Trading Standards, and that is where I got the information from. Obviously, trading standards across the UK differ in how they enforce it. And with regards to the online part, as I said before, they'd have to go to the HQ and have a look at the back end of the website. So, as I picked up in chat, the ones with the date of birth, there's a high probability that people aren't going to be truthful.
I would lie if I was 16.
Yeah, most people would. It's like, of course you want something, you'd do anything to get it, if you get me.
Yes.
But even though the person accessing the site is lying, the terms and conditions cover the company, so the offence is on the person trying to buy. So as far as I'm concerned, and other vendors should be not as concerned, because their behinds are covered by their terms and conditions. So there's not much to worry about. As long as you've got one in place, simple or complicated, trading standards can't do anything to you, because they have no idea of how to do it themselves, really.
Well, this is the point, isn't it? I mean, let's face it, trading standards, with everything that's included under the adoption of the TPD directive, the Tobacco Products Directive into UK law, trading standards have very little of an idea in any particular direction. I mean, I'm not expecting masses of enforcement, I've got to say. And actually, come the 20th of May this year, most people are not going to see a blind bit of difference when they go into a bricks and mortar or into an online store, because there's a year's worth of sell-through. So if somebody's got, I don't know, 2,000 1 litre bottles of 72 milligram, they've got a year to sell it through, and they're not going to get hauled up for doing it. Trading standards is not going to know what to look for. They'll have another year to learn, I suppose, but I suspect that by the end of that year, they're not going to bother. I don't think there's the will to spoil people. And you were talking about proxy sales, Rid.
Yeah.
My feeling on that is any responsible parent who knew that their child was smoking lit tobacco would, if they could, get them onto e-cigs. Why wouldn't you? Oh yes, of course, you might have read what Glance and Napton and various others have had written in the Daily Mail and various other mainstream mags and newspapers. But if you hadn't seen any of that, and if you listened to what you were told on VTTV and other online vaping shows, many of which are available and all of which have got something to offer, you would know that e-cigs have, well, we've seen it in New Zealand, haven't we? E-cigs have got a 75% success rate. Why wouldn't kids want to use them? What's your comment on that?
I completely agree, to be honest. It's like one of the chat comments was, if NRT can be on prescription to almost 12-year-olds, it doesn't make sense to restrict vaping products to those 6 years older and above.
Well, actually, NRT is available over the counter to 12 plus. It's not necessarily on prescription. Over the counter to 12 plus.
And that doesn't make any sense at all in the context.
It makes about as much sense as specifying chocolate for the preferred material for a teapot. Craziness, isn't it?
Yeah, but you can. It's all about. From what I looked at, some vendors were actually unaware that this law came into place, which I find absolutely scary. Because if they don't know it's in place, they're going to be slapped with a fine and they don't really know what for. And as a member of the vaping business community and general consumer community, I don't want that to happen. So vendors out there, if you've only just heard about this, contact your local trading standards. They should be able to help you out. After all, they're there to keep you in business, and you are there to stay in business.
Yes,
Simple as that.
if I can add to what Ridge just said, trading standards can be your very best friend. If, as a vendor, you've got a good relationship with trading standards, they're not going to come round and do silly checks when they don't need to, because they know that you're an upstanding, good guy kind of thing. I think it's worth bearing that one in mind. I absolutely do. Anything more to add to that, Rid?
No, I think we've pretty much covered it.
Okie dokie. Now, just before we move on, Matt, are you there?
Yeah, I think so.
You've been fiddling about with a piece of kit, have you not, in that little bit of film?
I have. There we was, watching or playing back the lovely piece of VT that Ridian did, and I looked at my desk and I saw this very same thing that we had from Aribu from Mark, which had been sitting on my desk in its box since I've got it at Vape Expo. Was that June in Birmingham, something like that?
I think so, yeah.
And so yeah, I've been having a little play with it.
So, right, okay. Well, if we let you have a play with that during the course of the next couple of pieces, we'll have a little natter about how you feel about it after that.
I will do that, yes.
Excellent stuff, because we've got to blast on. It's a feature-packed show tonight, seriously. This is going bang, 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 bang. I'm not used to this. I'm used to messing about, I am, but I really like the way this is going, and we hope you do too. The one thing I will say is we want feedback from you, the viewer. We absolutely need it. We need to know what you like and what you don't like. We need to know whether you like the new formats of the show that we're doing. So tell us on Twitter, tell us on Facebook. Please don't text me. I get so many calls, it's ridiculous. And sometimes, I'm an old lad, I like to have a snooze on an afternoon. There's another bloke that's going to be having a snooze on an afternoon before not too long, because in the moment he's on a jet aeroplane heading for China, and that particular person would be one of Dimitris Agrafiotis, who's been having a look at this thing here, the thing that's on the top of my roller. That's French for Rolo, and it's called a Cleto tank. Well, he tells me I've been calling it a clitoris. Demi.
All right, here's the Cleto tank by Aspire. This was sent to me directly from the factory to evaluate. One thing's for sure, they are running out of names for tanks. The Cleto, 3.5 mil capacity, 58 millimeters from top to bottom, and 22 millimeter diameter, which is pretty much the standard now for devices. The packaging, when it first came, I thought it had maybe a device and the tank because it was just so long. However, it was just a tank. It does have a replacement glass tank in case you crack yours. You do have a vape band here by Aspire 2B, and these little decorative silicone rings, which basically just kind of slide on top of your tank if you want to change the look. You have a blue, a red, amber, and another black one. So it just kind of changes the look of the tank. It came with two coils, a 0.2 ohm and a 0.4. Now these coils are Kanthal Clapton coils, so hopefully in the future we'll have some temperature control coils as well too. One thing is evident: there is no chimney in this tank. The coil itself becomes the evaporation technique and also the barrel of the tank. So the coil is all one piece. The vertical coil is built down here where the juice intake is, and then this is your barrel that goes all the way to the top where your top cap screws on. And look down there, you can see, well, I promise you, the coil is all the way down there. We do have 3 O-rings to seal: top cap, the bottom of the tank, and of course where the coil screws into the bottom base. Kind of like a Cardo tank. So now we're going back about 3 years in time. But the concept is pretty much the same, just like the Cardo tanks of the 2012 used to be. The drip tip for this tank is pretty much just a little Delrin piece. You can use your own 510 drip tip. However, it just elongates the tank too much. I just don't like that look. I mean, no matter what drip tip you're going to put, you're going to add, about 14 to 18 millimeters to that tank, and it's just going to look silly. So I've basically been using the piece that came with it, even though it is not my favorite drip tip by far. We do have 3 slots for air on the bottom, fully adjustable. With a 0.2 ohm coil, I have found that I need to have all 3 of the slots open to get enough air because it does get hot with a 0.4 ohm. I've been shutting it about halfway to increase the flavor, and I'm able to do that. So like I said, this is a top filling tank. Pretty simple, very, very easy. I get a little bit of juice here. But basically, to refill it, all you do is just unscrew, and there is quite a few threading here to get to the tank, okay? So probably about 10 to 12 turns to open up. There's some very fine threading there on the top of that coil, but that's how you eliminate the chimney completely, and the top cap screws directly onto the coil. I haven't had no issues with this leaking. Every time I refill it, it gets a little bit weak. I think that there is a little bit of juice going in, but definitely not no leaking, and definitely no gurgling. Let me show you how you replace the coil. You do have to remove the glass drip tip, the glass tank, to do that in order to be able to access that coil. And this is press fitted on there, so there you go. Just pop the glass off, and now you have access to the coil. And then just like everything else, just simply unscrew it. I'll make a little juicy mess here. But there you go. There is the 0.2 ohm coil that I've been using now, performing pretty well. You see we got 3 nice big slots to fill the e-liquid inside. Alright, so let's put it back together. Just screw your coil down. Then we're going to take our glass piece and just press fits on. Let's put some liquid in here. Just right there from the top. Done. Very easy to fill, and then just screw your top cap on. All right, let's put this one on the device. The 0.4 ohm coil, I used it for about 2 weeks. It remained between 0.4, 0.42, no issues with the resistance jumping at all. This one coming in at 0.25. And this one's rated up to 55 to 70 watts is what they're saying. I've been using about 45 watts, and I've been getting a satisfying vape out of it. All right, let's go on top. All right, like I said, 45 watts here, 0.25 is what it's reading on my DNA 200. I have all the air slots open. I preferred the 0.4 ohm resistance. It didn't get that hot. Plus, I was able to cut down the airflow a little bit to increase the flavor. One of the things that this tank is lacking on is flavor. Because that barrel is wide open, there's nowhere to reduce the vapor coming to your mouth. So when you have the 0.2 ohm and you have everything wide open, it really diminishes the flavor, in my opinion. All right, here we go. Obviously, you can see performing like a sub-ohm tank would. Pretty warm vape. I certainly can crank this up. I've actually vaped this at 70 watts. I'm going to put it on 60 here. But it's just too warm for me. I don't like that much of a hot vape. About 60, 62, that's good enough. All right, enough of that. Some final thoughts on the Cleto. Price-wise, I just now seen them come here to the United States. Retail about $20. I mean, that's pretty cheap. Replacement costs $5 for around $24. Some of the first prices that I've seen. Obviously, shop around to your favorite vendor. So price-wise, it is not It's definitely way below what the average sub-ohm tanks between the $35 and $40 mark that out there on the market right now. And I think that's what Aspire was trying to do, get in there competitive with the sub-ohm tanks. There's a lot of competition out there. It's probably one of the reasons why I stopped reviewing is all the sub-ohm tanks that are coming out. But I like to look at something that's unique, and this is unique compared to what's out there in the market itself. Very easy to fill, inexpensive. It lacks on flavor simply because of the design. However, that design as well is what I think cuts down from leaking as well too, because the barrel and the coil is all one. You have a lot of that packing material around the intake of the juice. So every time you remove the top cap to fill it up, it doesn't flood the tank at all. It gets a little bit of diminishing vapor there on that first refill, but a couple puffs just to vape it off. It definitely does not leak out of the tank, or you don't get any e-liquid in your mouth. Let me go back here to the 40 watt setting, 45 where I like it. That DNA, when you pass it, you pass it. It goes fast. All right, back to about 45 watts where I've been enjoying vaping it. And like I said, I'm preferring the 0.4 ohm coil. I hope we have some more options in the future, even a little bit higher resistance, maybe a 1 ohm resistance where you can mouth to lung it. Definitely not a tank for mouth to lung here. Even at 45 watts, plenty of vapor, but it does get a little bit warm with that 0.2 ohm resistance. That's what I had for the Aspire Cleito tank. Thanks a lot to eGate for sending this directly my way for a review. Until the next one, this one's Vaping Greek with Vapor Trails TV.
And we're back in the room. That cut to me before I was expecting it to. I have the Cleito Clitter. I've got one here. And I've been using this one for, well, since they came out actually. I got one of the first ones into the country and I paid for it. I'm not good looking like Dimmy. Most pity, but never mind. And I too put the 0.2 ohm in. I've been using the 0.4 and I will say I think it might be slightly preferable. It doesn't get quite as warm, but I've grown used to a warm vape. And just to give you some idea, well, hang on, let's see if we can go to camera 4 and see if it's working. It is. As you will see, I press the button. It's running at 60 watts on this here relais, which I really rather like. It's not in temperature mode. This is straightforward, bang 60 watts into it. I'll give it a quick crack and have a vape, and then when I've done that, we'll cut to Matt, because he has got his Cumulus up and running, haven't you, Matt?
I have.
Yes. So I'll have a quick vape. We might have we'll have a vape off. This is Cloud Chaser Central. I think this is the closest thing actually to a dripper without dripping that I've come across. It's really rather nice. 60 watts. Oh dear me. Let me try that again. Let me try that again. I took too much. There you go. As pieces of kit go, I actually quite like the Cleito for those moments when you just want to be a tit. And there are times when I have to say I like being a tit. I'm very fond of them. So Matt, Cumulus, come on, let's have, what do you think of that?
I'm quite enjoying it actually. I'll tell you what though, it's really drinking that juice. I mean, I filled this up probably about 10-15 minutes ago.
What?
Halfway down the tank already.
Good God Almighty! What inch? Man.
I've got it set to 40. And it's on the 0.5 coil.
Right.
Yeah, it's producing all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this Cleito is doing a cracking job. I've got to say, mind now. 30-second review on the Roller RX 200. We'll not be able to say this in May, but if you haven't got one, get one. It's that easy. I've got 2 of them, 3 batteries in. The battery life is phenomenal. I mean, I forgot to charge one the other day. Didn't matter. Got us through the second day. These things are cracking, these Rollers. You might not like the colourway of that one, which is, I mean, you know, It's not too garish. It could have been red and yellow, but the black one, look at that. Now I believe Marco is going to be looking at the Relo with a crown on the top within the next couple of shows. I don't think he'll have it for Monday, but he'll be doing it for a week on Monday. And if he is, tune in for that. And I'll tell you why he's going to be looking at it. He popped in yesterday to pick some kit up because he was up this way. He picked the kit up and he tried mine and he says, I'm going to have one of those, and he ordered it today. So there you go, that'll tell you. Once you've got your hands on one of these Relos, you're away and flying. And if you like drippers, you'll like the Clayto, I think. And what about that Cumulus? What would you say, Matt?
I would say that Mark's review is spot on.
There you go. You heard it here first. This is all good stuff, isn't it? What's the time?
It's 22.
Good Lord above. We've got to blast on. We've got to blast on. Now, many of you know, I think, that I went to New Zealand. Some people thought I'd emigrated. That's not the case. I didn't. Although, if I'm to be truthful, I could. Because as countries go, it's a lovely place to be. Even in the winter it's warm if you're up at the north. The people are marvellous. They are so friendly. The food is incredible and incredibly cheap. And frankly, nobody gives a toss if you vape. They just don't care. So last year, as you may recall, at the back end of September, beginning of October, Jill and I went across to New Zealand to attend the first New Zealand National Vape Day, and also to talk to people in tobacco control and smoking cessation, one of whom was Rebecca Rufus Collins, who you saw earlier on in the show alongside Mario Glover. You'll probably get the drift of how things are going over there by what Rebecca and Mario had to say, but also I wanted to share with you just a feel of the first National NZ Vape Day, and also what we did when we were talking to people about e-cigs in these seminars. We did 2 seminars over there. I will say one of the questions was, who pays you? Are you AstroTurf? And that gets answered in the video. Enjoy this. We're here, we've actually made it to Shooter's Saloon here in Auckland, which is where I think there's going to be 200 experienced vapers turning up. Let me show you where we are right now, and it's like half an hour into it.
sales who are here, and they've obviously come through that way. It's interesting, and I look forward to meeting some of them and talking about the products and finding there's some interesting little
There are, unfortunately, too many people who seem hell-bent on telling the world at large that e-cigs are at least as dangerous as lit tobacco. They will not acknowledge that they are, as we said earlier on, at least 95% less risky than smoking lit tobacco. The whole notion, even, that New Zealand has effectively banned nicotine-containing e-cigs. Yeah, the hardware's there, but they're not going to let you have nicotine e-liquid. That's telling you that they're at least as bad as smoking, because you can go and buy cigarettes anywhere. These things have restrictions placed on them that are not placed on cigarettes. And most people are going to look at that, well, you know, if the government's not going to let you get that, then it's got to be worse for you than smoking. And it needs an acknowledgement and acceptance from everybody involved in tobacco control at every level to constantly remind people these things are safe enough and they are infinitely preferable to smoking tobacco. Not to be evangelical about it, but those are the facts.
But with cessation in New Zealand, we have subsidised nicotine patches, gum and lozenges that we can prescribe for people, and they can get quite a lot, a month's supply or 8 weeks supply for only $5.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most of us who have done cessation in New Zealand probably have said to clients, look, it doesn't matter if you stay on the gum. You stay on it indefinitely, right? So there's really no difference. If we're saying to them with the gum, and it doesn't matter if you keep using the gum for the rest of your life, actually. You're not going, that's not what harms you, it's the smoking. And really this is the same. It doesn't matter if you continue to vape with nicotine. It's the harm is similar because it's the nicotine in the gum or nicotine through vaping. So it doesn't really matter if they stay vaping nicotine. But you do have a lot of people who wean off. Like I've heard a lot of vapers say, this is not as addictive.
It's not. I'll tell you how I've discovered this, aside from anything else. This journey into the future that we took to get here took us 36 hours from leaving the house.
I think most of us know because that's how far long it takes to get anywhere else.
As a smoker, I can tell you now that before we'd got over the North Sea, I'd have been climbing up the back of the seat in front of me. Jill would have ceased.
Let's be honest, if you smoked lit tobacco, there is no way on this earth I would have agreed to be with you. Because it would have been absolutely awful.
She loves me, really.
I do. But
I would have been like a bear with a sore head.
Absolutely.
Seriously.
One thing I usually just sit back and I don't say very much, and people will say, oh, well, David's done this and he's gone off there, and somebody's paying for him. Yeah, it's me.
I'm married well, so sue me.
I mean, and I, we don't have any links with big tobacco. We don't have any links with pharmaceutical companies. We are Dave and Jill. I might as well tell. Unluckily, in one respect, but luckily from another, my father died 3.5 years ago, and he left me some money, which was enough for me to take early retirement, which was smashing, and a little bit for me to go on little jaunts with David, and that was really nice. And then unfortunately another family member passed away, and there was some more money, and that's this last year. And when we were invited to New Zealand, I said, we're going to go because, you know, we've got that money now. You don't know what's around the corner. It's not somewhere you can go every week or, you know, every year,
No.
in fact. You know, this is a trip of a lifetime. So, no, we're not linked with anybody. It's, you know, it's our bank balance. And we do it because we know what the positives are. When I was working, I used to be I'm a retired head teacher in primary school in a very hard area in Jarrow in the northeast of England. I would have a minimum 75% of my parents would smoke and drink. I had 55% of my children were involved with social services. So I had a lot of children, and it was the children that bothered me, not necessarily the parents, though they come as a package. But to get life improved for the children, I had to try and do things to improve it for the parents. And there wasn't a lot I could do from that point of view when I was working. If I can do some now, and I know it probably sounds a bit twee or isn't very nice, but if I can improve the life of one child by coming here or by talking to somebody, then we'll do it. That's why we do it.
There's probably two major reasons why the big tobacco companies are buying into e-cigs. One is the notion of backing both horses in a two-horse race. Whichever one wins, you win. That's one side. There is another argument that says the only devices that they're buying into are the ones that are not likely to get people through that journey into this.
Yeah, that's. I think we are concerned about
But
that.
this is where governments and tobacco control worldwide can actually take the big tobacco companies on. No. You can take them on and beat them at their own game. If tobacco control worldwide said, yeah, go out and buy BAT's product, the vaping products, go out and buy JTI's vaping products, go and buy Imperial Tobacco's vaping products, and kind of by doing that, you're not going to be buying the cigarette products in a period of time, and it's not going to happen overnight, but in a period of time, because all of the vaping products are out there, they are mainstream, they're accepted, and people will get them in preference to smoking cigarettes. Suddenly, well not suddenly, but eventually BAT, JTI, IT, all the rest of them will have no market for the lit tobacco products. They'll only be flogging e-cigs. And what Stan Glantz said he would like to see will happen. You're just not forcing it on them. It will happen organically. In the same way that had vaping not been around, I would still be smoking. In the UK now, as I said, 1.2 million people no longer smoke because of these, and a large proportion of those were not people who were seeking to quit.
Now that scenario though will only happen if people have the choice, can choose these other products that are not coming from the tobacco industry, that are potentially more efficient and more satisfying to use. So if this is one concern I have, is that the tobacco industry will capture the e-cig market and we won't see these anymore. We'll only see something that's not so effective, that's not going to help people transition away from tobacco.
Do you know the daft thing about this is that governments are helping them do that?
Yeah.
You've all heard of the TPD in Europe, yes?
No, probably not. The Tobacco
Products Directive.
Yes.
The rehash of the first one, TPD2, which comes into effect throughout the whole of Europe on May the 20th of next year, takes everything I have here off the market.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Takes it off the market.
Yes. It makes it illegal.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
In European Union.
That size, the whole of Europe, right? That size of tank, gone. That tank, gone. Variable power, gone. Gone. That's, you can't have that size bottle.
Why is that?
because because they thought they were doing a good thing. The European Parliament sat down and didn't take evidence from people who really knew what they were talking about. They took evidence, I'm going to be in so much trouble now, but I really don't care. They took evidence from the pharmaceutical companies. They took evidence from people who had already overtly come out and said they were opposed to e-cigs for all sorts of spurious reasons, which the research has shown are completely wrong. It was headed up by an ardent anti-smoker who cannot even stand the sight of vapour. The whole thing has been described by the ex-director of ASH UK, one Clive Bates, as a dog's breakfast, and it's right. Yesterday, Totally Wicked took its case for challenging Article 20 of the TPD to court.
Totally Wicked is a e-liquid company?
E-liquid and e-cigarette
and
company.
e-cigarette.
And we'll not know the outcome of that until just shortly before the implementation date. So
I find that quite interesting.
why I'm here, or part of the reason that I've come, and I was so pleased that Mario asked me to come, was to try and stop New Zealand from making the same mistakes that we've made in Europe. The way things stand in Europe, the work that's been done over the last 6-7 years in e-cigs towards getting people to make the switch of their own choice, of their own volition, and that there's millions of us already have in Europe and in the States, that's all going to be stopped within 18 months. All of the good stuff, the stuff that makes it so easy to stay smoke-free, is going to be gone. The only people that will have skin in the game, your phrase, I'm using it, the only people that are going to have skin in the game and an investment in it will be big tobacco. They'll be the only players left. They're the only ones that can afford to do it.
Pharmaceutical industry.
And
No, the pharmaceutical industry isn't interested.
Not an e-cigs, no.
So that was what I was doing over there. And I'll tell you one of the main reasons that I went. And I've got this theory. I don't know how right it is. But I think if New Zealand falls on the right side of the fence and does things the right way, because of the credo and the credibility they've got in the whole anti-smoking thing worldwide, the fact that they've been leaders for so long, up until very, very recently, if New Zealand decides e-cigs are the good thing that we know they are, and do the right thing by vapers in New Zealand, Australia, I think, New Zealand calls it the West Island, I think Australia will follow suit. And if New Zealand and Australia have done the right thing by vapers and by e-cigs, then the rest of the world, I think, will follow, dominoes falling, one after the other. That's exactly the reason that when I got the invite to go across there, I was champing at the bit to go. So let's hope that it all works out the right way. Now, looking at the time, it's almost time for us to go, and so we say farewell. Hello, I'm a poet and I don't know it. This has been the first week of the relaunch, if you like, of VTTV. Everybody here, all of the team, hopes that you've enjoyed it, but like I said earlier on, we want to hear from you. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What do you like? What do you not like? Have you got something to contribute? Do you have a smartphone that will do decent quality video? If so, we want to hear from you. If you want to bring us reports from where you live, wherever that happens to be around the world, we want that as well. As Marco said on Monday, we want this to be the one-stop shop for e-cigs, no matter why you think about it. We're going to be trying to bring you stuff that you want and you need. So for the time being, from all of us here at vaportrails.tv, thank you so much for watching, and I can't resist. Vape on, vape hard, and Don't let the bastards grind you down. Till we see you next time. From everybody here, take care, and we'll see you on the flip side. Bye bye. Keep the peace.